Hey guys, tonight we step even further into the sun-baked hush of ancient Nubia, where the heat presses against your skin like a warm, persistent whisper, reminding you that you are, technically, very much alive, if slightly overcooked. You pause on the edge of the Nile's green ribbon, your eyes tracing the lazy shimmer of water as it cuts a perfect, improbable line through the sand. Around you, the desert is a breathing, living thing. The air ripples in waves, rising and falling as though it too is practicing patience. You probably won't survive this, not because anything is deadly exactly, but because your body, modern and pampered, has already started filing quiet complaints about the climate, humidity, and the complete absence of a proper iced beverage. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. Watching all those scattered time zones appear in the comments feels like mapping a constellation of sleepy, internet-connected souls. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk toward the nearest mud brick cluster, the buildings warm and sun-baked, almost the same color as the earth itself. Even from here, you can smell the faint yeasty scent of something being transformed, and though you don't yet know what it is, your curiosity wakes a small, childlike part of your brain. These are the homes of Nubian brewers, people who've mastered the art of coaxing life from grain in a place that seems determined to refuse it. Here, beer is not just a drink, it's a negotiation with the desert, a story told in slow, careful steps. You step carefully over a broken shard of pottery, pale as bone, and for a moment you imagine the hands that shaped it centuries ago, fingers sticky with grain, the first faint traces of fermentation already in their veins. A woman waves you forward, and her movement is graceful in a way that feels almost choreographed, as if every gesture has been slowed down to conserve energy and maybe sanity under this relentless sun. You follow her into a shaded hut, a cool retreat from the radiant oven outside. She hands you a small woven basket filled with millet and barley, and you let your fingers trail through the dry, warm grains. They shift and whisper under your touch, like a tiny sandstorm in your hands. Mainstream historians note that millet and barley were the staple grains of Nubian beer making, prized for both durability and flavor, and capable of surviving the desert's merciless conditions. Outside, a semicircle of brewers sits around clay pots, their movements deliberate, almost ritualistic. One man gestures for you to sit, his fingers spreading like the branches of a lazy tree, and begins explaining how this harsh environment dictates everything: the rhythm of daily labor, the methods of preparation, even the taste of the final beer. You notice the faint, tangy scent of fermenting grain already in the air, a quiet perfume, and it seems to settle into your bones as the sun climbs higher. Historians still argue whether Nubian beer developed largely independently or borrowed heavily from Egyptian practices. Standing here, you feel the weight of centuries of unanswered questions and minor, stubborn debates hanging in the air like dust. A quirky tidbit drifts your way from two brewers arranging their grains. They sometimes let the desert sun help soften and partially process the grains before roasting. Essentially, they're outsourcing to the climate, letting the sun do part of the work, while firewood is saved for the more delicate, skill-dependent steps. It's a clever trick, an ingenious negotiation with heat, and somehow deeply calming to watch. You can't help but make a mental joke about how modern life would be easier if our appliances politely asked the sun for help.
You kneel beside a shallow clay pit lined with sun-warmed stones. The pit radiates heat, absorbing sunlight over hours, maybe centuries, and you feel it pressing upward, warm and persistent. The air here smells faintly sweet, malty, and a little earthy, a comfort unlike anything you expected from a desert landscape. A damp cloth is draped around your neck by a smiling brewer, and you notice it carries a subtle scent of barley and grain from previous batches. You tell yourself this is charming rather than unhygienic, and try not to think about modern soap standards. Nearby, A child darts past, balancing a clay jar nearly her size. She giggles as she beats it like a drum, and one brewer lightly admonishes her, only half serious. You notice the jars, rounded, porous, and carefully crafted. They aren't just vessels, they're participants in the brewing process. Scholars debate how much their shapes affected fermentation speed, and you realize even the smallest design decisions mattered deeply to people who measured time by sun, water, and the slow progress of barley. The woman from before gestures toward the horizon, then back at the grains in your hands, reminding you that everything here flows from balance: desert and river, heat and shade, work and rest. Brewing is a meditation, a negotiation with the elements, and a performance that spans generations. You notice the patterns in their work, the rhythm of sifting, soaking, crushing, and you begin to mirror it, even if awkwardly. As the sun arcs higher, a faint breeze rolls in, a small reprieve from the relentless warmth. You watch the brewers break lightly toasted loaves of bread and soak them in water, forming a slurry that will serve as the base for fermentation. The aroma is faintly nutty, gently sweet, and fills the hut like a promise. Some brewers add crushed desert berries, others leave it plain. Historians still debate which was more traditional, and you smile at the thought that centuries-old recipes are still flexible enough for minor improvisation. Time drifts slowly, with every gesture and movement amplifying the quiet rhythm of this desert compound. A donkey brays in the distance, insects buzz lazily, and a goat meanders past, indifferent to human preoccupations. Everything is moving, but nothing is rushed. You feel yourself sinking into the tempo, the gentle hum of lives flowing with purpose, unbothered by clock or calendar.
You sip a small bowl of herb-flavored water, your training wheels, before tasting the beer itself, and your tongue is subtly reminded of malt, earth, and warmth. You glance at a brewer smirking at your cautious sip, and you wonder how many visitors faint here, and how many secretly brag about surviving an hour in the desert before they taste the real thing. The day drifts toward afternoon, and your senses are soaked in sand, sun, warmth, and the low, steady hum of labor. You follow the women and men around the compound, noting their graceful efficiency, their calm negotiation with an environment that would break most people in hours. The grains in your basket seem heavier now, carrying history, smell, and promise. You feel yourself becoming part of the rhythm, even as a visitor, a quiet participant in a story that spans centuries. By the time the sun tilts toward late afternoon, you are aware of something profound. Nubian brewing is not just about beer. It is about survival, patience, ingenuity, and a kind of meditative flow that only a place like this can teach. And with every step back toward the pit, toward the grains, and toward the bubbling jars waiting patiently to become beer, you feel a calm settling over you, the desert itself humming in quiet agreement.
You bend over the grains again, letting the warm millet slip slowly through your fingers, and immediately you notice the way the tiny kernels catch the sun, sparkling faintly as though each holds a secret star from centuries past. The sand beneath your feet is soft and forgiving, almost velvety, but each step reminds you that you are in a desert that does not pause for modern humans. Dust rises in gentle spirals, weaving around your ankles and trailing your fingers when you reach down, making the grains look like they're floating for a brief, magical instant. The grains themselves feel alive under your touch, warm, coarse, fragrant, carrying faint echoes of distant rivers and long-forgotten fields. You lift them carefully, noticing their subtle differences, some swollen and robust, others smaller, cracked, or dotted with tiny imperfections that speak of their journey from the Nile's fertile delta to the sun-baked drying mats of Nubia. It is remarkable, even mesmerizing, to realize that every kernel is a fragment of history, a small survivor in a landscape that seems determined to challenge life at every turn. A brewer kneels beside you, and you mimic his slow, careful movements as he demonstrates soaking. Water from the Nile, drawn from its meandering, sunlit channels, fills shallow clay bowls. You submerge your handful of millet, and the coolness bites pleasantly at your warm fingers. Already the grains begin to swell, pulling in the water with a quiet, almost imperceptible urgency. Mainstream historians note that this soaking was essential to the brewing process, activating enzymes that would later convert starch into sugars, the fuel of fermentation. It is a delicate, intentional act, a quiet negotiation between human hands and the potential energy held inside each kernel. The millet seems almost impatient, rising gently beneath your touch, as if it knows the part it is meant to play. Then comes the playful, almost theatrical aspect of Nubian tradition. The brewers tap the grains lightly against the edge of the bowl 3 times before soaking, a gesture said to ward off mischievous spirits that might disrupt fermentation. You can't help but imagine invisible desert sprites, tiny and capricious, darting between the grains, spinning and tumbling in midair, as if laughing at your cautious human attempts to appease them. Historians still debate whether these rituals were purely symbolic or if they might have had subtle practical effects. But in this moment, the line between superstition and science feels delightfully irrelevant. It's charming, comforting, and slightly absurd, the perfect combination for a slow, relaxing meditation on history. Once soaked, the grains are spread out under the sun to dry. You trudge alongside, a basket balanced on your hip, the heat radiating through your sandals, a persistent reminder that this is no ordinary kitchen. Each step is an exercise in deliberate movement. Your muscles learn the rhythm of lifting, pouring, and patting the grains into position. The brewers fan them with palm leaves, creating shimmering waves that catch the sunlight and send tiny sparks dancing across the ground. Watching it, you feel your breathing slow, your mind quiet, as if the grains themselves are teaching you patience. Time here is measured not by hours or minutes, but by the careful rhythm of hands moving in sync with sun, wind, and sand. Next comes the toasting. Grains are placed over a low fire or on sun-warmed stones, heated just enough to release flavor, but not enough to kill the precious enzymes. You crouch beside the hearth, feeling gentle waves of warmth radiate against your face, chest, and arms. The aroma is intoxicating in a soft, cozy way, nutty, earthy, and slightly sweet, reminiscent of freshly baked bread long before industrial ovens existed. A memory surfaces, a childhood morning with the faint smell of cereal. Though it is faint, it blends seamlessly with the desert scent of sun and sand. You think of a small joke, basically a natural spa day, only with grains instead of oils. Even in the heat, the humor lightens your mood, a gentle laugh in sync with the rhythm of labor.
Crushing comes next. You pick up a rounded stone pestle and begin pressing slowly against the grains in a coarse mortar. Each tiny crack releases a deeper aroma, a layered scent that triggers long-forgotten memories or imagined ones. Warm kitchens, sun-dried bread, the subtle sweetness of barley in water. A few stray kernels are tossed over the shoulder for luck, a gesture part superstition, part ceremony, part theater. You can't decide if it's purely symbolic, but somehow it feels essential. Nothing explodes, no spirits appear, and the grains crumble obediently beneath your hands.
The crushed grains are mixed with water and poured into clay fermentation vessels, wide-mouthed jars, slightly rough inside, so yeast has a place to cling. You watch as tiny bubbles form and disappear, tiny eruptions like distant rainfall in miniature. Some jars are sealed with clay stoppers embedded with twigs, believed to whisper the Nile's blessings into the brew. Historians still debate whether these practices affected flavor, aroma, or were entirely symbolic, but in this moment, it doesn't matter. Every movement, every ritual, every tiny bubble becomes a meditation, a slow celebration of human ingenuity in a harsh environment. Time drifts lazily toward mid-afternoon. The compound is alive with subtle sounds. A donkey brays in the distance. Insects hum a lazy song. A goat meanders past, unconcerned with the human rhythms around it. You notice how the grains themselves change subtly, swelling, softening, preparing to transform into liquid, alive and energetic. You sip a small bowl of herb-flavored water, your training wheels before tasting the beer, and the flavors, nutty, earthy, faintly sweet, softly awaken your senses. A brewer watches with a small, amused smirk, knowing full well how your palate is being trained, your mind absorbed. The sun slowly begins to tilt westward, stretching shadows across the compound, mellowing the harsh brightness. You follow the brewers through their slow movements, from roasting pits to fermentation jars, observing the meticulous care they take at every stage. Every motion reinforces what you've begun to understand. Nubian brewing is patience, rhythm, meditation, ritual, and survival all at once. Every grain, every bubble, every subtle gesture matters.
Nearby, a child balances a jar nearly her size, drumming lightly with a stick, giggling despite admonishments from a nearby brewer. You smile. Here, even serious, essential work has room for play. Clay, grains, water, sunlight, and generations of knowledge converge in a quiet, gentle dance, with every element contributing to the rhythm. You begin to mirror the movements, carefully, awkwardly, but fully present. As the late afternoon approaches, you sit beside a sun-warmed jar, feeling faint vibrations through the clay. The faint gurgle of fermentation joins the low hum of wind through palms and distant livestock. Tiny shifts, almost imperceptible, ripple through the grains and liquid alike, a subtle heartbeat that echoes through centuries. You notice the tiniest details, a slightly cracked grain here, a stray berry there, a faint glimmer of sunlight on the rim of a jar. Each one is both a small miracle and a testament to the patience of human hands. You take a deep breath, letting the scents, textures, and sounds settle into your skin, bones, and mind. You realize that Nubian brewing is not just survival or craft, not just a drink, not just a task. It is a conversation with the desert, the river, the sun, and time itself. You have touched centuries, felt rhythms that predate modern clocks, and absorbed a gentle wisdom in slow motion. And as the late afternoon approaches, you sit beside a sun-warmed jar, feeling faint vibrations through the clay. The faint gurgle of fermentation joins the low hum of wind through palms and distant livestock. Tiny shifts, almost imperceptible, ripple through the grains and liquid alike, a subtle heartbeat that echoes through centuries. You notice the tiniest details, a slightly cracked grain here, a stray berry there, a faint glimmer of sunlight on the rim of a jar. Each one is both a small miracle and a testament to the patience of human hands. You take a deep breath, letting the scents, textures, and sounds settle into your skin, bones, and mind. You realize that Nubian brewing is not just survival or craft, not just a drink, not just a task. It is a conversation with the desert, the river, the sun, and time itself.
The late afternoon sun hangs low in the Nubian sky, turning sand and clay into a muted gold that seems almost sacred. You walk slowly among the fermentation jars, each one a vessel of transformation, tiny worlds within clay. The ground is still warm beneath your feet, radiating a comforting heat that presses gently through your sandals. Every step sends up soft puffs of dust that mingle with the earthy aroma of grains, roasted barley, and sun-baked clay. You pause for a moment, inhaling deeply, letting the scents fill your lungs and settle warm in your chest, like a comforting blanket on a cool desert evening. It's mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, and you feel your breathing slow to match the rhythm of the jars. The first jar you approach has a slow, almost imperceptible bubbling at the surface. Tiny eruptions break the liquid skin with faint, barely audible pops, like distant rainfall in miniature. You kneel beside it, tracing the movement with your eyes, and realize that each bubble is a tiny miracle, life itself forming in slow, deliberate motion. You reach out, letting your fingers hover over the surface, feeling the faint vibration through the clay. The brewers notice and smile, a knowing, gentle acknowledgement that you are beginning to understand. A brewer dips a small reed spoon into the liquid and lifts a sample to taste. His lips barely brush the surface, and his eyes close for a moment, as if consulting an invisible guide. He nods almost imperceptibly, then adds a few crushed berries to the mixture. You mimic him, hesitating at first, then letting a tiny taste touch your tongue. The flavor is subtle and layered, sweet, nutty, with an earthy undertone, faintly floral from herbs or fruit added during the day. It's remarkable how alive it feels in your mouth, like centuries of care and patience distilled into a single sip. Mainstream historians note that Nubians likely used both wild yeasts and cultivated starters, a combination that allowed fermentation to begin predictably while retaining unique, localized flavors. You can see why. Each jar behaves differently, responding to sun, temperature, and perhaps even the whispered blessings of spirits still believed to wander among the grains. Scholars still debate whether starter cultures were deliberately transferred or merely captured from the air, but as you taste, it seems almost irrelevant. Nearby, a child balances a small jar nearly as tall as she is, tapping it lightly with a stick, eyes wide with fascination and mischief. You smile. Even amid careful, deliberate craft, there is room for play. Her soft laughter blends with the low gurgle of fermenting jars, the rustle of palm fronds, and the distant bray of a donkey. Clay, water, grain, and generations of knowledge converge in a quiet, slow rhythm, almost like music you can feel with your hands and chest, rather than hear with your ears. Every gesture seems intentional, yet unhurried, a choreography that repeats day after day, century after century. You move from jar to jar, watching tiny bubbles rise and burst, releasing faintly sweet, earthy aromas. Some jars are sealed with clay stoppers embedded with twigs, supposedly to carry the whispers of the Nile into the beer. You lean closer, inhaling the scent, and imagine the river speaking softly to the grains. Historians still argue whether these additions affected taste, aroma, or were entirely symbolic, but for now, it doesn't matter. You are present, fully immersed in the rhythm of time and craft.
The brewers begin a subtle, almost meditative process of adjusting each jar. Some receive a gentle swirl to redistribute grains, others a slight tilt to release excess gas, and a few have tiny berries or herbs added. You watch each movement, tracing the subtle choreography, and realize that brewing is as much a dance as it is a science. The faint pops, hisses, and burbles of fermentation become hypnotic, like a soft, natural ASMR track designed by centuries of experience. The desert's wind adds its own contribution, rustling leaves and carrying the scent of sun-warmed earth and river. You kneel beside a jar, resting your hands on the sun-warmed clay. Tiny vibrations travel through your palms, rhythmic and reassuring. It is as though the jar itself is alive, carrying history, labor, and patience in every bubble and shift of liquid. You recall the grains you handled earlier, the meticulous soaking, drying, and roasting. Now all those steps converge here, visible in the slow transformation before your eyes. You notice the faint sheen on the surface of the liquid, the way light refracts through amber-hued bubbles, creating tiny floating prisms. A quiet joke surfaces. Who knew beer could be so pretty? You let a soft chuckle escape, blending with the quiet hum of labor around you. The sun tilts further west, brushing the horizon with hues of soft apricot, lavender, and rose. The brewers move with almost imperceptible care, adjusting stoppers, leaning closer to taste, tilting jars just so. You notice the rhythm of their gestures, subtle repetitions that form a pattern you begin to absorb unconsciously. Even the smallest bubbles seem to follow a cadence, rising and popping in perfect, gentle timing. Every movement, every sound, every faint aroma contributes to the overall harmony of the compound. A particularly curious detail captures your attention. Some jars have small cracks inside the clay, imperceptible to the casual eye. The brewers insist that these jars produce beer with character, as if imperfections somehow channeled the desert soul into the liquid. You smile, appreciating this embrace of flaw as art, tradition, and science rolled into one. Historians still debate the impact, but you watch the bubbles rise and the liquid swirl, and it feels magical, independent of human understanding. As evening deepens, shadows stretch long across the compound. The temperature begins to drop slightly, and a faint breeze carries the mingled scent of grains, clay, herbs, and desert air. You lean back against a sun-warmed wall, closing your eyes briefly. Tiny bubbles pop quietly, soft gurgles echo through the jars, and the rhythmic movements of the brewers form a gentle, calming lullaby. You notice the soft sounds of distant livestock, a goat nibbling at sparse leaves, a donkey's occasional bray, and the faint rustle of palms. Everything exists in a slow, deliberate harmony, a meditation on labor, time, and patience.
You follow one brewer as he carefully tastes the new sample, his lips barely touching the surface. He closes his eyes, inhales, and nods, a subtle affirmation of flavor, balance, and progress. You lean closer, tasting from the same spoon, letting the earthy, sweet, and faintly tart flavors coat your tongue. It's not just beer, it is a slow distillation of time, patience, landscape, and human care. You reflect on the centuries of brewers who have moved through these same motions, how every bubble and each careful adjustment represents generations of knowledge quietly passed on. The sky now deepens to soft shades of violet and deep gold. The jars radiate the last warmth of the day, the air still carrying the scent of grains, clay, and sun. The brewers perform their final adjustments, gently covering jars, rearranging for optimal warmth, and patting stray grains back into place. Each movement is careful, measured, reverent. You watch, completely absorbed, feeling your mind slow, synchronizing with the rhythm around you. The desert, the jars, the brewers, and the grains move together in perfect, slow harmony.
You trace the tiny bubbles with your eyes, noting how they rise, shimmer, and disappear, carrying with them centuries of ritual and practice. The child still taps her tiny jar, giggling softly, blending with the faint, hypnotic hum of fermentation. You lean forward, resting your hands on a sun-warmed vessel, feeling the faint vibrations through your palms. It is the heartbeat of history, a tactile, sensory rhythm that you can almost meditate upon, letting the desert, sun, clay, and grain lull your thoughts into quiet contemplation. The evening deepens. Shadows lengthen. Colors fade gently into muted amber, soft lavender, and dusky rose. The air cools, brushing gently against your skin. The jars are alive, each one containing a subtle, delicate balance of liquid, grain, yeast, and history. You feel yourself breathing with the rhythm, eyes tracing tiny bubbles, ears attuned to soft gurgles, heart aligning with a slow, ancient cadence. Everything, the desert, the brewers, the grains, the liquid, the sun, the wind, is participating in a shared, quiet meditation. You realize this is more than beer. It is the distilled essence of time, patience, and careful human observation. And finally, as the first stars begin to twinkle faintly above, you sit back against the warm clay, letting the sounds, scents, and gentle vibrations envelop you. The slow, deliberate rhythm of brewing, bubbling, and ritual work draws you into a state of calm, reflection, and subtle awe. In this moment, you are fully present and yet gently drifting, completely absorbed in the timeless, hypnotic heartbeat of Nubian beer.
The night drapes itself gently over the Nubian desert, softening the horizon into gradients of muted violet, amber, and deep indigo. You trudge slowly across the sun-warmed earth, each step sending faint clouds of dust curling around your sandals, and every grain of sand seems to hold memory. Beneath your feet, the ground radiates residual heat from the day, warm but not uncomfortable, as though the desert itself is breathing slowly, deliberately, guiding you into its rhythm. Each breath you take is infused with the mingled aromas of sun-baked millet, roasted grains, clay, and the faintly sweet scent of herbal infusions. You pause, closing your eyes briefly, letting the evening's tranquility settle deep in your chest and shoulders. Before you, the jars sit like sentinels of history, quietly bubbling with life. Tiny spheres of gas form just below the surface, catching the last traces of fading sunlight, glimmering like minuscule stars suspended in amber liquid. You kneel beside a jar, feeling the subtle vibration of fermentation through the clay, a pulse so faint you might almost imagine it, yet it is real, tangible, and oddly comforting. The brewers move among the jars with serene precision, their hands brushing lightly over stoppers, shifting grains with gentle taps, adjusting herbs or berries to fine-tune flavors that have been perfected, or at least learned through trial and centuries of practice. One brewer, the eldest among them, dips a slender reed spoon into a vessel and lifts a sample to his lips, closing his eyes as if consulting a whisper from the Nile itself. You watch closely, learning the subtleties of posture and timing, letting your fingers hover over the surface before attempting your own sip. The liquid is warm, smooth, layered. Sweet millet, a soft tang of fermentation, faintly smoky notes from roasted grains, and an almost imperceptible herbal complexity. Mainstream historians note that Nubians likely used both wild and cultivated yeasts, a sophisticated understanding for its time, and the taste confirms this subtle mastery. Scholars still debate whether these methods were primarily empirical or symbolic, yet you sense that both elements exist simultaneously, inseparable from one another. Nearby, a child balances a tiny jar on her lap, tapping it lightly with a stick. Her laughter is soft, bubbling, a gentle accompaniment to the whispering gurgle of fermentation. You smile, thinking of the playful contrast, serious, deliberate craft alongside light-hearted improvisation. It's an important reminder that tradition in Nubia was never rigid. It allowed room for joy, curiosity, and exploration. You find yourself mirroring these tiny motions, gently tapping a jar, letting the rhythmic pulses carry you deeper into focus, into calm, into an almost trance-like state. You watch as the brewers add tiny handfuls of herbs to certain jars, letting the leaves float briefly before stirring them gently into the liquid. The aroma intensifies, a faint mix of earthy grassiness, subtle floral hints, and the underlying warmth of roasted grains. You inhale slowly, eyes half closed, and notice that even the air seems alive with this history, a scent map layered with the knowledge of countless generations. You realize that Nubian brewing is a conversation between elements: water, grain, yeast, sun, clay, and human touch, all synchronized in a slow, deliberate choreography.
As the sky darkens, the stars begin to emerge faintly, small points of silver that seem to echo the tiny bubbles rising within each jar. You lie back briefly, letting the desert's soft heat press against you, grounding you in the present while simultaneously linking you to centuries past. The gentle gurgle of fermentation, the whispering wind through palms, the occasional bray of a donkey, these sounds form a meditative soundtrack. Each movement the brewers make, each bubble that rises, each faint scent drifting through the cool air, contributes to a delicate hypnotic rhythm that draws your thoughts into a serene drift. One jar in particular catches your attention. Tiny cracks in the clay's interior, almost invisible in daylight, now shimmer faintly in the starlight. The brewers claim these imperfections give the beer character, a quirky detail that blends superstition, aesthetic choice, and practical effect. Historians still debate whether these flaws actually alter fermentation or are purely symbolic, but you can see, feel, and almost taste their subtle impact in the aroma and texture of the liquid. You gently press your hand against the warm clay, feeling the faint vibrations as bubbles pop and new ones rise, each carrying centuries of tradition. You trace the subtle movements of grains and bubbles, noting how herbs float, sink, and mingle, releasing micro-aromas into the night air. You remember the labor of the day, soaking, drying, roasting, crushing, and mixing, every meticulous step now culminating in this slow, quiet transformation. Tiny particles suspended in amber liquid shimmer in the dim light, like fragments of memory held in motion. You cannot help but think, this is history you can touch, taste, and feel. A living, breathing testament to patience and care. The brewers begin their final evening tasks. Jars are gently tilted to release excess gases. Stoppers are adjusted. Stray grains returned to vessels, and surfaces brushed clean with soft, deliberate motions. You watch as each gesture is executed with almost reverential care, a blend of artistry, science, and meditation. Even the smallest bubble, each subtle hiss, and the faint pop as fermentation continues becomes part of a gentle, hypnotic symphony. You find your breathing slowing, matching the measured pace of the brewers, and you realize you are fully absorbed, both participant and observer, a temporary member of this centuries-old rhythm. The child is still nearby, tapping her jar in soft, playful cadence. The faint laughter mixes with the hushed gurgle of jars, the subtle rustle of palm leaves, and distant animal calls.
everything coalesces into a soundscape designed not for spectacle, but for quiet reflection. You lean closer to a jar, observing the delicate swirl of grains and liquid, noticing the faint iridescence of bubbles catching the starlight. Each tiny pop is a gentle reminder of transformation, of the slow, deliberate work that goes into creating something both practical and beautiful.
Time seems suspended. The jars, the brewers, the grains, and the desert itself exist in a shared rhythm, almost independent of your conscious perception. You sip again from the communal spoon, letting the warm, layered flavors unfold on your tongue. The sweetness of millet, the tang of fermentation, the faint smoke from roasted grains, and subtle herbal undertones. It is a sensory map of Nubian ingenuity, patience, and care, a quiet storytelling medium, carrying history in every sip. As the night deepens, you sit back on the warm sand, letting the soft vibrations, aromas, and subtle sounds envelop you. The desert night wraps around the compound like a comforting blanket, and the rhythm of bubbles, stirring hands, and distant animals forms a meditative ASMR-like cadence. You feel connected to generations of brewers, the unbroken chain of observation, experimentation, and ritual that has guided these practices for centuries. Finally, the stars blaze faintly above, the jars radiate the last warmth of the day, and the desert breathes gently around you. You close your eyes, letting the hypnotic rhythm of fermentation, the measured movements of the brewers, and the quiet desert sounds lull your mind toward calm reflection. This is more than brewing. It is meditation, history, sensory immersion, and storytelling, all woven into a slow, deliberate evening that draws you ever deeper into the Nubian world of grains, clay, water, and sun.
The desert has settled into its gentle morning rhythm, a quiet that feels thick enough to cradle your thoughts. The sand beneath your feet is warm, almost silky, each step raising tiny, shimmering motes that float lazily before settling back into place. You trudge slowly across the compound, mindful of every motion. Every grain of sand seems like a repository of memory, heat, and sun, as if the desert itself is breathing through you. You pause near a jar, placing your palms lightly on its clay surface. A faint vibration reaches your fingers, a soft pulse, subtle yet alive, that hints at the life within, the quiet fermentation happening in slow, hypnotic time. The brewers move with deliberate slowness, each gesture a careful balance of utility and tradition. They tilt a jar, adjust a stopper, or brush stray grains back into place. Historians suggest such care ensured safety, consistency, and flavor, while scholars still argue whether certain actions were symbolic or purely functional. You watch their hands, noting the careful choreography of body and mind in unison with centuries of experience. Their movements are mesmerizing, hypnotic almost, tiny microcosms of patience and ritual that ripple through the air like subtle waves. You inhale deeply, letting the aroma of sun-baked clay, roasted millet, faint herbs, and distant river water fill your lungs. Each breath invites relaxation, a sensory lullaby for your body. Tiny bubbles rise through the amber liquid, shimmering in the sunlight that gradually warms the compound. You lean closer, mesmerized, noticing the subtle variations between jars, the faint differences in hue, the way light dances on tiny surface ripples, the almost imperceptible differences in smell. Each jar is its own universe,
a blend of craft, chance, and the slow, unhurried rhythms of nature. The child taps her small jar gently, producing a soft, playful percussion that complements the low, steady gurgle of fermentation. The brewers smile, offering gentle guidance rather than correction. You notice the harmony here, the careful, meditative motions of the adults balanced by the curious playfulness of youth. It is a reminder that learning, care, and observation can exist side by side with delight and curiosity. You can't help but let a small smile form, thinking how even centuries of careful tradition have room for laughter and gentle human imperfection. You sip again from the communal spoon. Warm liquid coats your tongue, the sweetness of millet, a faint tang from fermentation, a subtle smokiness from roasting, and a whisper of herbs, each note unfolding slowly, deliberately. Mainstream historians note that Nubian fermentation was surprisingly sophisticated for the era, blending wild and cultivated yeasts to achieve consistent results. Scholars still argue whether these nuanced flavor variations were intentional or environmental accidents, but you sense both genius and happy accident in every sip. The flavor seems to tell a story, a sensory narrative of patience, observation, and gentle experimentation. The sun continues its ascent, casting long golden beams that shimmer across the jars. Tiny cracks in the clay glow faintly, catching light in ways that highlight their imperfections, adding character and beauty. The brewers treat these cracks almost reverently, smoothing edges, adjusting stoppers, and leaning close to observe subtle changes in liquid. Each gesture is fluid, meditative, almost ritualistic. You press your palm lightly against a jar, feeling its warmth and vibration. Every bubble rising inside carries with it centuries of history, human care, and delicate attention to nature's rhythms. You pause to notice the small details, faint ripples on the surface, the delicate dance of suspended grains, the subtle gleam of liquid catching the sunlight. Scholars still debate how much of the flavor was influenced by clay composition, sunlight, and temperature variations, but you sense an elegant, intuitive mastery in every subtle motion. The desert wind stirs the palms and carries the faint smell of roasted grains and herbs, a soft, natural perfume. You breathe deeply, letting the scents, textures, and warmth envelop you. Your senses lulled into a meditative state.
You lie back on the warm sand, letting its gentle contour cradle your body. The rhythmic gurgle of the jars matches your heartbeat, the gentle tapping of the child blending into a soft percussion. Tiny insect hums and distant bird calls join the soundscape, subtle notes in a slow, immersive symphony of the desert morning. Your thoughts start to slow, folding gently into each other, aligning with the soft, meditative rhythm around you. You feel connected to this space, to its history, and to the hands that have shaped these processes for centuries. Time becomes almost meaningless. Each breath, each bubble, each subtle sound forms a continuous, unbroken thread of calm. You notice the jar's warmth, the sun's soft touch on your skin, the faint vibrations under your hands, the gentle sway of palm fronds. Even the tiniest movements, the child adjusting her jar, a slight tilt of a stopper, seem part of a grand, unhurried choreography. You are entirely immersed in this slow, peaceful rhythm, letting it guide you ever deeper into quiet, meditative awareness. You lie fully back on the sand, palms resting gently on the jars. Warmth radiates from the clay, subtle vibrations reaching through your fingertips. The faint gurgle of fermentation is steady, slow, and hypnotic. The desert breathes softly around you. The sun diffuses its golden light, painting everything in gentle shades of honey and amber. Your body begins to relax into the contours of the earth, every muscle softening, every tension dissolving with each gentle inhale and exhale. The brewer's movements are almost imperceptible now, slow gestures that barely disturb the surface of the liquid. They tilt, adjust, brush, stir, all with the care of centuries of knowledge guiding their hands. The child sits quietly, observing, her small tapping now a faint melodic accompaniment to the rhythmic gurgle of jars. Tiny bubbles shimmer in the amber liquid, each a miniature story of transformation, patience, and careful attention. The wind whispers through palm fronds. Distant birds hum, and the faint hum of river water drifts in the background. You inhale deeply, letting the combined aroma of roasted grains, warm clay, faint herbs, and sun-baked millet fill your lungs. With each breath, you feel yourself sinking more deeply into calm. The subtle variations in scent invite gentle attention, soft mindfulness. Each sensory detail forms a delicate tapestry, guiding your mind slowly, peacefully, toward a meditative state. Scholars still debate the exact processes of ancient Nubian brewing, yet you sense a quiet elegance in every movement, every bubble, and every carefully placed grain. The soft percussion of the child's tapping blends seamlessly with the slow, rhythmic gurgle of fermentation. You feel the pulse of life in miniature, and in the vast desert around you, a living, breathing symphony that carries centuries of care, skill, and gentle human attention. The sun continues to rise, its warmth gentle but constant, coaxing the jars to shimmer, highlighting imperfections and beauty alike. You notice how shadows move slowly, subtly, elongating and shifting in hypnotic patterns across the sand and jars. Every sip from the communal spoon is a slow meditation. The sweetness of millet, the tang of fermentation, the soft smokiness from roasting, and the whisper of herbs unfold deliberately across your palate. It is a sensory lullaby, calming, grounding, and endlessly fascinating. The jars, the desert, the wind, the child, and the brewers all work together in this unhurried ballet, each element reinforcing calm, each sensation carrying you closer to serene relaxation.
Tiny details continue to catch your awareness. Grains suspended in liquid, soft bubbles rising and bursting, faint reflections of sunlight on clay, distant animal calls, the whisper of the wind. Each subtle movement is a thread in a slow, meditative rhythm. Your heartbeat slows, your breathing aligns with the gurgling jars. Every element in the compound, the sand, the jars, the human hands, the sunlight, forms a soft, enveloping cocoon of calm, perfectly attuned to your senses. You drift further into stillness, letting the warmth of the sand, the gentle vibrations of the jars, and the slow, steady rhythms of life around you guide your awareness downward, inward, toward restorative calm. The desert is alive but gentle. The jars are alive but patient. And you are a part of this living meditation, your mind slowly releasing all tension, your thoughts dissolving into quiet observation and soft, immersive sensory awareness. As the sun climbs fully, shadows soften, and the desert air becomes lighter, warmer, more diffuse.
The brewer's motions are minimal, almost imperceptible, and the child's tapping blends perfectly into the soundscape. Even the faint hum of insects and distant birds contributes to this immersive auditory lullaby. You feel your consciousness expand to include all these details, while simultaneously sinking deeper into your own sense of calm. Every inhale draws warmth, scent, and vibration into your awareness. Every exhale releases worry, distraction, and tension. You feel suspended, light, and completely immersed in the slow, meditative pulse of this desert morning. Each jar, each bubble, each gentle motion of hand, sand, or sunlight draws your mind further into unhurried serenity. The desert and its rituals wrap you in a gentle embrace, as though time itself has slowed to match your heartbeat. You notice the warmth of the clay, the sun's touch, the gentle vibrations beneath your hands, and the slow rhythm of fermentation. Each sensation is magnified in your awareness, inviting complete immersion. Thoughts drift lazily, unhurried and non-linear. Tiny sensory cues, a bubble popping, a soft tap, a rustling palm frond, become anchors for deeper calm. The environment, centuries of craft, and your body all move together in a slow, gentle rhythm, a lullaby without words, full of presence and patience. Your awareness softens completely. You float gently in the warmth of the sun, the rhythm of fermentation, and the slow cadence of the desert. All elements, the jars, the brewers, the child, the grains, the wind, and distant water, merge into a single harmonious flow. You are fully enveloped, fully relaxed, fully immersed. Each detail dissolves into the next, a seamless, gentle tapestry of calm. The desert breathes softly around you. The jars pulse faintly under your hands. The wind whispers through palms. The distant Nile hums faintly. The sun warms you gently. Your breath and heartbeat sync perfectly with this slow rhythm. Every sound, scent, and vibration blends seamlessly. You are weightless yet grounded, fully present yet drifting. Now dim the lights in your mind, let your senses soften, and allow the quiet pulse of jars, desert, and centuries of Nubian brewers to lull you fully into a deep, restorative sleep. You are safe, calm, and fully immersed. Every gentle vibration, aroma, and light touch guide you toward serenity until your mind drifts off, slow and untroubled.